big picture items for us are caring for cows at the next level. Um, I thought we were there, but we're not there yet. So doing that, which means reducing cull rate. Um, of course, the better we care for them, the longer they'll last, but also the more that they'll produce. And that seems to be what has always worked for us, is to get a little bit more out of um, each animal or the facility in general. Um, it's always easier to get things paid for with more money. So, but also as you care for those animals better, they return, um, you know, to you at a faster rate.
Hello, I'm Barry Bradford, and this is the Dairy Podcast Show. Welcome to this episode where we're going to talk with Nathan Brearley. Nathan is the owner and operator of Brearley Farms Incorporated with his father Larry near Portland, Michigan. They operate a fourth generation dairy farm. This is the second generation on the current site, and they milk 500 cows there and operate 750 acres of crops to support those dairy cattle. Nathan has been the manager of this operation since he was 25 years old and currently oversees 10 employees. And Nathan has 6 children with his wife, and they're involved in the operation as well. And several of them have some interest in the farm. So with that, Nathan, thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.
So if I understand right, you grew up on the farm that you're working on now. And was that sort of a dream you had as a kid all the way, going back, that you wanted to continue operating this farm?
Yeah, that's been a passion of mine for as long as I can remember. Through elementary school, I can remember days just dragging on, wishing I could be back to the farm. It was always fun to see how fast I could get my clothes changed, my boots on, and I could literally see the school bus 3/4 of a mile away still, and I would be running out the door already ready for work. So yeah, it's always been something I've wanted to do.
What is it that you think makes it so enjoyable for you? What is it about running a dairy farm that you think drives you, motivates you?
All of the just diversity that we have that we can attack on a daily basis. And I do like the routines, but I also like the spontaneity that the business is, and that you have challenges that will come that you have to address and figure out. And I like working with a small group of people to do that, and putting people in the right spot to help me succeed. I like all the things about our size of operation.
Maximize profitability and herd health with early detection in animal health, reproduction, calving, and feeding. Only possible with the most advanced bolus technology from SmaxTech, the health system that future-proofs your dairy operation. Visit us at our booth in the exhibition hall at the World Dairy Expo and get ready for big news.
I don't know you super well, but even the little bit we've interacted, I could guess that, at the end of a week, being able to look back and see the things that, you can point to that you've made a difference in that week, must be a really satisfying feeling.
Yes. Yep. Sometimes, it gets so busy that you forget all of the successes of the week because it's just time for another one and another challenge. Yeah, I really enjoy how much we can do in a week and at the pace that I want to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really fun talking to somebody who, has a passion for their work and enjoys it. A lot of people do, not everybody. But of course, working in agriculture comes with its challenges too. Everybody knows that. And both from a positive and a negative standpoint, the last decade in the dairy industry has been extremely volatile. So people talk a lot about 2014, what a great year that was. And then we had some other years like 2020 where milk prices crashed, right? Lots of variability, lots of challenges. Tell me about what that looked like on your operation specifically.
Yeah, I've been, part of the operation for almost 20 years, and the day-to-day work hasn't been as much of a challenge as the economic stress that it can bring. Um, there was a time approximately 5 years ago, the days just kind of fly by and so do the years, but I was like, what are we doing this for? This is a passion of mine, but economically, why are we still doing this? Like, it's so much work and we're so dedicated, but yet we can barely make ends meet. And I put the farm for sale, not in a, I didn't get a realtor or anything like that, but I asked the community, hey, is this operation something that would help your operation? And how can I still be in this, but at a different level or a different spot? And of course, we have debt on the farm and lender, and so I have that commitment as well. And there was no real good viable plan to switch course, so we stayed as we are, milking cows, making the feed for the cows. I just put my nose to the grindstone to do better than what we even were in any way that we could. And working on those big numbers of expenses that we have for a dairy or opportunities was the easiest way to do it. And, labor is a big one, feed is a big one. And of course, when we're making our own feed, that's an area that's a big passion of mine. So I started attacking that one, of course, because I could see there'd be opportunities to economically get better. And um, with labor, trimmed everything that we could, worked a little bit harder, saw my family a little bit less during that time, and also was able to just come up with some bigger and better ideas to be more efficient. And we've made it through, and it's it's been another growing step in our career, uh, in that, you know, those troubled times.
Well, kudos to you. I don't want to diminish any financial challenges that you may be dealing with now, because input costs are very high and milk prices are just kind of okay right now for those input costs. But from my perspective, the few times I've been to your place over the last few years, it seems like you're in a much better place, like at least mentally. Like it seems like you see a good future for the farm now, and kudos for that. That's hard to make it through those times of just extreme stress.
It gets discouraging to have
Yeah,
that fire that I always had, and to have that fire be doused with economic doubt and economic challenges. But also, it created a fire in me that is now really driving me to succeed. And it's been exciting, and uh, you know, to adapt some things and technologies in different ways to make us that much better. And yeah, it's been fun.
fantastic. Good for you. So I think you kind of already started to answer this, but maybe we can kind of go through them explicitly, whether you have a formal written list or not. Could you help us understand right now, if you had to list out maybe 2 or 3 or 4 goals that you have for the dairy moving forward to the next 5-10 years? What are your big picture items that you're focused on?
Big picture items for us are caring for cows at the next level. Um, I thought we were there, but we're not there yet. So doing that, which means reducing cull rate. Um, of course, the better we care for them, the longer they'll last, but also the more that they'll produce. And that seems to be what has always worked for us, is to get a little bit more out of each animal or the facility in general. It's always easier to get things paid for with more money. So, but also as you care for those animals better, they return, um, you know, to you at a faster rate. So that's one of our goals. Um, forage and energy, and that has all been another thing that I've really been focusing on to try to make forage with less inputs and a higher quality forage to feed our cows with less inputs on that diet as well. So trying to tighten up that whole picture using soil instead of dirt to grow plants at a healthier level. Um, all those are things that we're working on as well as a goal.
And real quick question there. So when you say energy, are you talking like nutrients for the cows, or are you talking like fuel and electricity?
Really, everything but more nutrients for the cows. I'd say right now it's nutrients for the cows, but I'm also thinking whole farm energy as well. Um, but my mind space and time right now, we're focusing on the forage and the energy that it takes to produce that milk, and then also the energy that comes out the back end of the cow, and trying to preserve that and maybe even alter that a little bit to make that energy more usable for forage and create forage that's at a higher value.
Cool. Okay, so I want to dig into both those goals. Do you have are there any others? Like we talked about infrastructure a little bit. Any thoughts on reinvesting in the infrastructure at all?
Well, as far as infrastructure, we're still milking in a 1975 parlor. It's a double six parlor milking 500 cows 3 times a day. That isn't going to last forever. I'm very surprised that it is actually lasting as long as it is, and we're producing the high quality milk that we are out of it. So, been very fortunate to have the labor to make that facility run at top level. But eventually, we have to do something with that harvesting facility. And I think our next step would be automated milking robots at the barn. I think it goes hand in hand with that goal of caring for cows a little bit better, letting them choose when and where they want to go instead of moving everybody as a group. So that's something down the road that we are going to have to address if we're going to stay in the business is how we're going to harvest the milk out of the cows.
Good. So that gives, I think, a pretty good view of where you're aiming the business. I should ask maybe earlier, can you give us some just ballpark numbers people throw around, milk per cow per day, sort of repro efficiency?
Yes. So our milk per cow per day is about 95 pounds throughout the year. Um, we don't have huge swings in the summertime, fall, winter. We calve in cows very consistently. We do things with management to minimize that heat stress, which then I think just kind of levels out our breeding program. And so we're right in that 95 plus or minus 2-3 pounds throughout the year. All Holstein cows, butter fat right around the 4.41, protein 3.1, and our quality of milk as far as Smed Excel, we're right around 60 to 70,000 is where we're at, and we continue to just kind of creep down, and it's an amazing slide to better quality milk that isn't necessarily on the forefront. It just has been, we keep doing the right steps along the way, but it's not a huge goal of ours is to have a lower Smetic cell or higher quality milk. It's just caring for those animals in a facility setting, and it's returning with those standards being met. So
That's pretty impressive, especially like you said with that old of a parlor and the throughput you're getting. That's fantastic. Okay, so let's dig into some of those goals. First of all, you mentioned trying to keep cows longer. So do you have a sense on your farm of the main drivers of culling? Why is it the cows are leaving?
Yeah, like when I enter in PC Dart, when a cow leaves, the main thing of why they're leaving is open. You know, they just didn't get pregnant, and that's discouraging when it took 2 years to raise her, and in 2 or 3 years of milking her, I've got to now sell her. She still had good udder, good feet and legs. We just missed that opportunity to get her pregnant, and um, that's something that we've been average on throughout our course of time is our breeding program, when a lot of other steps along the way we've been above average in the statistics. So um, that's something for the last couple of years I've been really trying to focus on, is getting the repro better and getting to that elite level of, say, preg rate or whatever number you want to look at, but getting cows pregnant better, and choosing who leaves instead of her saying I leave because I'm open. So, and then eventually making less heifers um, because of it. And I think we've gotten a little bit relaxed on our cull rate because we're making too many heifers. And that's been a struggle for us to make less heifers. And I've tried, but as you continue to get your preg rate higher, it's natural to make more heifers. So
Right. Yeah.
we've switched over reluctantly. I've been fighting it for a couple of years, and I probably should have just switched to only sexed semen, and then black semen for, beef semen for the rest of the herd. And I knew there was an opportunity to do this, but I wanted to make sure we were somehow making our proven older cows and and making a heifer out of those genetics, instead of just taking, say, genomics from our young heifer herd and only making heifers out of them off of genomics. I think genomics are helpful, but also that older cow that's proven herself, um, she also is something that I want to reproduce. And with our breeding service that we use, it was hard to get them to know who is that elite cow, because we're doing all of our management decisions off of a milk weight that we do once every 2 to 3 months. So we don't have that accurate milk data coming in. But we do, as a management of our herd, the managers of our herd, between my herdsmen, even the milking technicians, myself, we know who those better cows are. Um, the breeding companies, they have their job, and it's not to pick out our best cows when they're walking through the herd. They're here to see who's in heat. So I wanted to start breeding our own cows a little bit more, or at least having some input on who should get that sex semen. And heat detection seemed to be our, part of what wasn't getting us to that elite level was our heat detection. Um, the cows were milking a lot, so it was always, are they right on the border of energy? Are they not showing good heats because of smooth or slick concrete? Or there was always something of an excuse of why we weren't catching our cows in heat well enough, and finding those cows that may have been cystic a little too long, missing opportunity to inseminate them right. And yeah, we came across a technology that was offered to us, and it was the SmackTech bolus. And that bolus, I thought the biggest opportunity we might have was with breeding.
Before that, you were just doing just observations for heat detection, and you were not synchronizing much.
We were tail painting. We were also synchronizing as well, but uh, with that, we were still just getting average heat detection and missing out on some of those services. Our weekly preg checks, getting about 50% of those preg checks pregnant, where the other 50% we were missing those heats. And average numbers, I think, but we could do better. And so that's where we looked at that bolus. And, I was skeptical at first. I'm like, man, we're doing pretty good. I don't know how we can do better. And we walked through some of the economic numbers. If we were to get our call rate a little better, our repro a little better, our fresh cow health a little bit better, that it would actually probably pay for the fees of this bolus. And I was hoping that we would at least pay for it, if not excel. And this thing economically has been good, much better than I thought. And then functionally is catching things way better than I ever thought it would. So it's been a really good technology that we've adapted.
Let's just talk about it a little bit for people that aren't familiar, first of all, and then I want to dig into those responses you're seeing. So it's a bolus. It's something you put down the cow's mouth, right? So kind of what type of size is it? When do you bolus the cows?
So for us in the dairy industry, it's kind of like a bovine-calc pill, if we know what that is, a calcium pill. It's about the same size as that. It gets administered the same way as a aspirin or a bovine-calc will. There's a balling gun, stick it down their throat, and it's then put into the stomach, and it stays there for life of the cow. It is a pretty easy way to track an animal. We've had AFI in the past where it's a leg band, or other systems uses a collar. Um, it it isn't something that's going to get snagged or has to be taken off, put back on. You just take your cell phone, scan the QR code, enter the cow's number, and put it in her throat. And that's a pretty simple way to do it. You still have to be strong enough to not be whopped around by the cow's neck and head, but I've been kicked in the chest by putting bands on heifers, and that's not a safe place to be either. So,
And this is giving you like what is it sensing? What kind of data? What are the outputs it's giving you?
yeah, it's sensing three different things. It senses rumination, it senses body temperature or rumen temperature, or the stomach that it sits in temperature, and then also activity. And I would say probably the most important thing that it's sensing is that rumination. And it has uh, a upper and lower limit of rumination that's optimum. And as long as that rumination is in the window that it should be, we know that cow is healthy and happy. And any management that we do with that cow, say it's give her a vaccine, move her to a new group, dry her off if she has a calf, that all affects rumination. And we are trying to make sure that rumination stays in the optimum level. And uh, with that, everything else follows well behind. It's just we know she's good. So it also tracks body temperature. Um, you can see when a cow drinks as well, because the temperature will plummet and then come back up on the chart, and it will um, let us know even if a cow doesn't drink enough according to her normal schedule, and give us alerts on low water intake. Um, I had an example of a dry cow group where I had a couple low water intakes, and I'm like, I wonder if the plug came out of the drinker or something like that. And what it was the crossover gate did not get opened after scraping the night before. And a couple stubborn cows that only will drink on one side, they didn't walk around and go to the backside or something like that. So as soon as I opened the gate, those water intake alerts went away, and you could see that she starts drinking again. we're finding animals with health issues days before we can see them. We all think that we're really good at seeing a sick cow, but this sees it faster. And we can then correct the issue faster with less treatments and keep her in milk, keep her working, keep her healthy, um, easier. And sometimes our eyes don't see things as fast as we think they should. And it may be too late already for those cows. We can't correct the issue, and then we end up losing that animal. And this is just keeping those animals in the herd longer, from fresh cow issues to dry cow issues to mid lactation issues, and the reproduction end of it has just helped us to get to that next level where we should have always been.
That's great. So, how long have you had this in place now? When did you implement the Smax Tech?
Smack Tech was the third week in March, I believe, of 23, and
About 6 months, roughly.
yeah, about 6 months. We put started out about 70 to 75% of the animals got bolus, and uh, our criteria for bolusing and I say animals, but I should say adult animals, the milking herd. Um, we held back on a few just to make sure there were going to be a verified pregnancy check, and then we'd throw it in. We would also hold back on some of those that we didn't think were going to stay in the herd for more than a year. If we're like, you're going to be going out in the next 6 to 9 months, I don't want to throw away the bolus. The bolus, it's about a $40 investment for a bolus. And then there is a fee per month, subscription fee, I would say, cell phone bill, for monitoring that through the company. Along with that, you get really good customer service, and also, um, that monitoring that comes right to your phone, right to a PC whenever you need it.
And so you mentioned some of the benefits you're seeing. Have you done any analysis, tried to do a sort of before and after analysis of the true impact, like quantitatively?
Yeah. We can always see those things changing, good or bad, as it's happening. But it's really nice to look back at numbers. Um, we can immediately see fresh cow transitioning better. We were having less ketosis because we were catching those things even in the far off dry cow group that were causing fresh cow issues. And I was one that was talking to the salesman from the company, and I was like, I don't want to monitor dry cows. I don't want to pay that daily charge because it's just a dry cow. Like, all we gotta do is feed her. And I think monitoring those and catching those issues, those are probably our 10% of fresh cow problems right there, that we don't see until they actually freshen. Um, they're the subtle pneumonias, the timid cows that don't want to eat as much as they should, and we've taken to the point of a timid cow that isn't eating right. We will actually get her up when other cows are laying down, because she doesn't like to eat, say, out of a headlock. She only likes to eat out of the man pass. But if you have 2 or 3 cows that like the man pass and she's the least aggressive, that's the one that will transition the worst. And we can actually watch that rumen function and activity, um, on a real time level. Like, we can see that drink happen hours later. We can see the activity. We can see rumination increasing. And it's encouraging to us as caretakers that if we're doing something, we can see results. Or if we try something and it doesn't work, we can try something different versus waiting 2 or 3 days and now the cow's even worse. and you're like, man, I wish I could see into you better. And now we can see into her better. So it's been really fun to watch.
That's awesome. And what about on the repro side? You mentioned that you feel like you're starting to hit the targets that you were hoping you could.
Yeah, we've
What are your
always
preg
been,
rates looking like?
our preg rate's always been in that, 20, low 20s. And it's a manageable level where you can keep going. But I've heard people getting 30, and that seemed like a dream to me to be at 30% preg rate. Like, how in the world, how do we do this at a 95-pound herd average? Like, is this even doable? And then I hear of other you know guys in the dairy industry achieving it, and I'm like, man, I want to be there, but how? Like, how do we get there? And just in this last 6 months, we've went up 9% preg rate, and we're talking summer months as well. So even if we don't quite settle at this, we're 29% right now is kind of where we've averaged the last 6 months. Even if we don't settle there, I'm very satisfied of the improvement, and I do think that we'll just stay there or get better. And it's been a really cool thing to actually watch happen. And I can feel it. Our weekly preg checks have went from 50 to 60% pregnant, and if we're under 75% of those animals, um, pregnant, it's concerning to me. Like, what happened? Why? Because right now it's 75, 80% week after week, and we're not missing those 21-day heats like we used to. We're also not using as much of the setup shots to get these cows pregnant. And I don't know exactly what that number is, but I do all of the medicine ordering on a weekly, bi-weekly basis, and I'm ordering less GnRH. I'm ordering less Ludulase, so I know that it's working, and that we're just catching more natural heats off of this system. We're even checking some of these cows that aren't showing a natural heat within 50 days of milk, and tailoring a um, setup system for those animals using ultrasound.
It sounds like you are seeing maybe a mixed effect of better transition health plus better estrus detection. Is that what you would attribute this to?
I almost think it's also better reproductive health, because that animal is never really going backwards during that calving or dry off period time. So all of her eggs that maybe are being jeopardized as a sick fresh cow, they're there and they're ready to be fertile by that 60 to 70 days in milk, and they're conceiving. So I think it's keeping that cow healthy the whole way through, not going into a major negative energy balance, and that's just making that animal more fertile when it's time to breed her again, and then ultimately keeping her in the herd longer. Another number that I'd like to share, and our preg rate's been good, but also animals that have left the farm 0 to 150 year over year. So we looked at a 4-month stretch from 22, would have been like June in 22, and then June in 23. And we looked at that 4-month stretch. We're down 50% in animals that have left the farm 0 to 150 days of milk. So half of the animals. That's a big number. And then if we can then couple on the back end side of animals staying on the farm because of less reproductive calls or being open, I think it's a big number. We were putting a lot of animals through the facility, and I think we can cut that number in half of what we were getting rid of every year with this management that we're doing now, with having a better eye on each cow that we have. Some of them, the hardest challenges we have now are the cows that don't have boluses. Like that's my herdsman is coming to me all the time like, "Yep, I didn't see that until now she doesn't have a bolus." And you know, there are troubled cows anyway, but he's like, "Man, I think I could have saw this 2 days ago." And now I'm trying to fix her, and I'm behind the
Sounds like you have good buy-in then from your
oh,
employees. That's
my employees, uh they're the key to making this system work. They're using it and asking questions with the customer service team. Um, even maybe even challenging them on, hey, can we do this with it? Can we do that with it? It does a daily water intake, and I think that's somewhat tied to milk production. So I'm even kind of talking with them about, hey, can we get estimated milk yield or a rating on this animal compared to others in the herd just off of her water intake, and just to help us manage things better.
Oh, that's a great idea. And do you have a target turnover rate that you're aiming for now, like in terms of big picture, long term in your herd?
Yeah, big picture, I'm looking to have, instead of where we've usually ran is one heifer for one cow, I'd like to get down to a heifer per cow. So for our herd running in that 250 to 275 heifers, and that's a huge expense for a dairy is heifer raising. And if I can um, only keep those heifers that I need, we can we can take care of that heifer better from calfhood up to adult, and focus on really growing her at the best level that we can, not be overcrowded. But also, it just doesn't take as much money in our operation to raise all these heifers that we really don't need. We just had the excess, so we were burning through cows faster than what we should have.
Oh, that's an exciting process. So I want to talk just real quick about, we could spend another easily half hour talking about your forage program. So I think you're doing some really innovative stuff there. You kind of alluded to soil health as being one of your driving inputs there. Um, real briefly, what are you doing that's sort of, I guess, outside of the norm of a corn silage, alfalfa, haylage based forage program?
Yeah. So we've always fed alfalfa and corn silage, um, probably in the diet, looking at say 20% forage was alfalfa, um, 75, 80% corn silage. And about 3 years ago, started adding in some alternative forage, started raising triticale, made that into lactating cow feed. And the cows told me that was the right move. Uh, it's a very attractive forage for a dairy cow, especially in the summer. They run to the feed bunk and they don't stop eating all summer long. So, and then if you just feel that material, it's very soft and digestible. So then it gets me on the path of trying to grow two crops in the same year. So growing triticale and then going back into corn for corn silage. And there's some challenges that go along with that. Um, it's harder to grow corn after triticale is harvested. So I start looking into soil health a little bit more, um, biology for the soil a little bit more. Also trying to do less tillage on the soil because of the root mass that's there. And if done properly, we could still grow a good crop after triticale. Um, and of course, I do what the cows are telling me is to keep growing triticale. And through all of that, I want to keep doing more digestible alternative forages like Italian ryegrass. Actually, growing cocktail mixes right now of Italian ryegrass, clover, hairy vetch, all in the same field. And with that, those are more digestible fibers where I can then reduce my purchase feed cost and put the manure that's coming out the back end of the cow immediately on a field of forage, getting the nutrients extracted as fast as possible and put back into healthy forage. And I've ran across a good group of guys for resources on reduced tillage, added biology to both our seeds and soil to increase the functionality of that and get that back into a more natural state and not have to use so much fertilizer. And also adding biology to our manure and making that a more usable fertilizer for our soil and cropping system. It's basically digesting the fiber that the cow did not and turning it into a more usable fertilizer. And there's a lot of benefits that that's showing right now with easier handling of manure, less sludge in the bottom of the pit. Also, it's a less offensive odor emission off of that manure. So it doesn't stink as much, and that's good for our image in the community, but also I think good for our pocketbook because we're capturing more of that nitrogen and saving it and letting it go into the soil system instead of up in the air, and which is also good for our planet.
Evonik Animal Nutrition is committed to ensure food security and safety while reducing the ecological footprint of animal farming. Its products and services use evidence-based solutions that seek to promote animal welfare and reduce reliance on natural resources. All this is underpinned by long-standing industry partnerships and deep customer understanding. Evonik's focus on efficiency, sustainable, healthy nutrition, and collaborations with livestock farming partners creates value for customers and consumers.
All right. Well, I'd love to dig into that more, but we're kind of running out of time. There's a few questions I'd like to throw out there, kind of bigger picture. You're on your soapbox now. What's one thing most people don't understand about operating a dairy that you wish you could communicate to them?
A dairy is a very complex system. You have to be knowledgeable in a lot of different areas, especially when you're the size that we are. Um, it seems like I'm always learning something new that I didn't know before and having to learn something new and be good at, or asking for help from others to assist in that area. And that it's also a economically challenging business. Like there is a lot of money that comes in and out of this business that you have to really watch and know where to spend money and where it can return the best dollar.
I think people are typically shocked at the cash flow through a dairy when they hear the number compared to your local grocery store or something. It's a big business.
Adaseo, a global leader in nutritional solutions and the provider of Smartamine N, the best-in-class rumen-protected methionine product for dairy producers who want to optimize milk production, capture more value from their components, and maintain their lifetime performance of their herds. For more product information and to calculate your return on investment when you balance your feed with amino acids, go to milkpay.com.
It's time for our famous three. Your partner in improving animal performance, Berg & Schmidt. They provide high-quality, economical feed ingredients for ruminants, like their well-researched coated nutrients and fat powders that can support cows with additional available energy, which improves their overall health, productive performance, and your cost efficiency.
So we have our three famous questions we throw at everybody. First of all, do you have a favorite dairy-related book or resource that you turn to?
Dairy related, of course, the dairy herd management. I like seeing articles that come through there. Uh, and really, you know, I'm starting to get older now, so I have the before internet and after. The internet has been amazing to be able to continue to learn and research and read. And then the mobile internet, where we can have it on a phone and listen to videos as we're still working or listen to you know, previous seminars and stuff like that. Those are the areas that I am using a lot right now in this part of my journey.
That's cool. What about your favorite book or resource outside of ag?
Book, Bible.
And last but not least, in your opinion, what sets successful dairy professionals apart from those that are less successful?
Being willing to listen, to admit that you don't know everything, being able to share what you know with others, and also in that sharing, I think also we learn as we share as well. So sometimes it's just listening to what we share and we learn about ourselves too. So
It's true, isn't it? Well, Nathan, thank you so much for your time today. This has been fantastic. I've enjoyed it very much. So Nathan Brearley from Brearley Farms in Portland, Michigan, has been our guest today. Thank you for joining us for this conversation. Again, this is Barry Bradford, Michigan State University, and I'm just going to ask you, if you haven't signed up for subscribe to this podcast, don't forget to hit that button so you don't miss the next episode. Until next time, we'll see you then.